Just about 9 or 10 days ago, I posted a video about how Governor Brown had part of his climate change bill defeated, namely the mandatory restrictions on use of fossil fuels. I'll include a link to it in the description section. It was about Senate Bill 350, and it was stripped of the petroleum mandate. It was aimed for a reduction of 50% in the use of petroleum by 2030. Like I said, it was stripped from the bill, Senate Bill 350, which was a bill sponsored by Senator De Leon, if I remember right, but any other senator will do as well among that bunch. Even though it was sponsored by that senator, it was really at Governor Brown's behest that this bill was introduced. Everyone thought it was a victory when that petroleum restriction was removed from the bill, although there are other things in there that are destructive and will undermine prosperity in California. But there was still a sigh of relief when that petroleum restriction was removed. Well, now I'm reading the morning newspaper, and Governor Brown, true to his word, said that he was now motivated to the maximum degree, and that's not an exact quote, but it's in my prior video. But, I mean, he really has a burr in his saddle over this, and he said he was really motivated to still put this in place. He's now going ahead to reduce petroleum use unilaterally. In other words, it doesn't matter what the legislature wants. They don't even have the least interest in following the wishes of the citizens in this state, or the wishes of the representatives of the people in this state. So Governor Brown is going to push ahead on this anyway with the Air Resources Board. It doesn't matter that the legislature isn't signing off on this. He's going to do it anyway. At this point, he's going to have the Air Resources Board put these rules in place, even though the legislature gutted them from that law. He's acting much like Obama, just doing what he wants. Forget about the rule of law. Forget about rules. Forget about the way our system actually works. He's going to put in place what he wants, even though the legislature doesn't sign off on it. And that is a dictator by any definition of the word. That's why these air resources boards and all of these independent regulatory commissions, such as the EPA and the Air Resources Board, need to go, because their rules have the force of law, but they aren't put in place by anyone that represents the people, by anyone that's elected. Worse than that, if you run afoul of those rules that actually have the force of law, you don't even get a jury trial. Just, yep, you broke the rule, you're guilty, you have to pay the fine or, whatever penalty. That really should be ruled unconstitutional because of that. That those things have been a pet peeve, those regulatory boards. They call them rules, but they really have the force of law. So Governor Brown is saying, we don't have a declaration in statute, but we have absolutely the same authority. We're going forward. The only thing different is my zeal has been intensified to a maximum degree. In other words, it's just like I said in that video about this, when the petroleum restriction was removed from SB 350. He's going to shove this down our throats, whether or not the state legislature wants it or whether or not the people want it. That is not democracy in any way, shape, or form when that stuff happens. He's hell-bent on crippling our competitiveness in this state by putting these kinds of rules in place, these carbon taxes, these petroleum restrictions. I'd encourage you to look at my last video, because I went into some detail on this. Governor Brown blames the oil companies, but oil companies are just supplying a product we need that's demanded in the marketplace. And those oil companies wouldn't even be supplying that if it wasn't a product that was demanded. And this is supposed to be a free market in America. The reason it's demanded in the free market gasoline, that is, the reason gasoline and diesel is demanded in the free market is because it works. It's more efficient than the alternatives. I'm a big free market guy. If someone can come up with something better that competes head-to-head with gasoline, I am all for it. But it does need to compete. Ethanol does not compete head-to-head with gasoline. And so it requires a subsidy, which requires other people to be taxed to support that, which in the end result of that is it results in unemployment in other sectors of the economy, because you're taking money from people that they were spending on some product to support the boondoggle of ethanol. Whatever product those people were spending that money on, that product is now selling fewer units than before because that money is being taxed away from people. I brought up electricity too, because electricity is so insanely expensive in the state, and with all these rules it's going to get more expensive yet, which is going to require more money out of people's pockets to buy the same amount of electricity. There are people buying something else out there with that money, and they're going to have to stop spending it on that. But the thing is, because no more electricity is being produced, just the price of it is going up, that no more people are employed in the electric industry. But fewer people are going to be employed elsewhere because of the huge amount of money that just goes into paying for electricity in this state. This is something that's being shoved down our throats that's going to undermine the prosperity of the state, and the state is still struggling. I've been over this and I've gone into detail on it. The main point of this is that Governor Brown is just hell-bent on shoving this stuff down our throats. It doesn't matter if we want it or not. It doesn't matter if it's good for the state's economy or not. It doesn't matter if it's good for the citizens of the state or not. It doesn't matter if it's going to drive more and more taxpayers out of this state or not to him. They don't care. They don't care about the consequences at all. They don't care that they're undermining the prosperity of people in this state. They don't care that they're losing taxpayers. They just don't care about the consequences at all. That is an alarming thing when you think of it, that the leader of our state is so heartlessly and callously ignoring the consequences of what they are doing in Sacramento. Just this week, there were 2 restaurants in my area that closed down, and both of the owners of those restaurants said they just can't make it anymore with these high energy costs, and there's a looming wage increase on the horizon coming up in January. Even with the energy costs, they just can't make it anymore, and these were people that had carved out a niche for themselves. And sure, they weren't getting rich, but they were supporting themselves, they were employing people, and that's 2 restaurants just in 1 week. There are not jobs to replace those. Those people are unemployed. And that's what I mean. These people in Sacramento, they are heartless, they're callous, they're cynically doing things that they know are going to cause unemployment. And they just don't care. They do not care a bit about the citizens in this state. They've probably never gone through what these people are. They're suddenly unemployed and they don't know what they're going to do. There are not jobs growing on trees where they can just go out and get another one. That is just how absolutely heartless and cynical and just ethically corrupt these people in Sacramento are.